Hi everyone, Alchemist here. Welcome to another video deciphering the major arcanas of tarot, and today I'm going to talk about the High Priestess card. Some of you have requested this card, and today I'm going to address it and talk about what it really means. This card, the High Priestess, is loaded with esoteric and occult information. I'm going to share it with you. But before starting, I want to remind you that I have a book called How to Embrace Your Darkness, link in the description box below. This book, I wrote it for all of those who are wondering about how to embrace their darkness in order to become who they really are and in order to empower their essence, their spirit, their soul. And I also have, I offer many readings at sciofalchemist.com, link in the box below. I offer several personal readings, sigils, codes. There's a lot of good stuff in there. Go check it out, and let's get right to today's video. So, the High Priestess. What is this card all about? Let's start with where it falls in the ranking of the major arcanas. It's the card number 2. As you can see here, I'm going to talk about it from a hermetic deck perspective, and also I have it here in the Thoth deck as well. So number 2, first of all, it's the High Priestess. It's number 2, and number 2 in numerology means creation. It means polarity. It means duality, because this reminds me of the hermetic principle of polarity, which says that everything has 2 poles. There's love and hate, hot and cold, tall and short, as above, so below, which is also the correspondence hermetic principle. So number 2 represents always duality. There's always polarity. There's 2 different things. But it represents also creation, because to create, you need 2 entities. You need 2 entities to create something. That's why to create a living being, you need 2 entities. You need a male and a female, and then creation happens. So our world, our physical reality, which is not that different from the spiritual realm, because as above, so below, and as below, so above. This physical reality, that's how it works. It's just the way it is. There's always 2 different sides of things. When people say they want peace all the time, it means there has to be war. People who want peace will always generate war, because there can be peace without war. They're 2 different poles. You can't have love if you don't have hate. It's just how things work in this physical reality. No matter how hard you try to escape it, you can't escape it. And the more you understand this concept of duality, which is represented by number 2, the High Priestess, and I'm gonna connect the dots for the other things that's in this card. The more you wrap your head around this fact that duality and this polarity concepts that the physical reality revolves around it's just inevitable. You just have to learn how to navigate it. So that's for numerology number 2. Here we have at the bottom, there's a really nice message that says the Priestess of the Silver Star. The Priestess of the Silver Star. This is only in the Hermetic Tarot deck. In the Rider White, you're not going to see this message. It's not there. Here in alchemy, silver is represented by the moon, and the sun is represented by gold. The metal silver is represented by the moon, and as you can see here, there's a moon on top of the High Priestess. There's a moon on top of her head. So we have silver, we have the moon, and that's also feminine energy. And the moon, we can only see it in the dark. That means that dark and nighttime are feminine energies. The sun and daylight and gold, which is represented by the gold metal, is masculine energy. So that's also from an alchemical perspective. So this represents the divine feminine, that's represented by the moon, nighttime, darkness. And again, darkness has nothing negative about it. It's all part of the polarity I was talking about. Dark and light, they have to exist. One cannot exist without the other. Light cannot exist without dark, and dark cannot exist without light. For you, the viewers, I don't need to explain this to you in my channel. I always talk about this, so I expect that you guys by now know this concept. This card, from an astrological standpoint, for astrology, it is the card of Libra. So it's an air sign. So here at the top you see this kind of like the moon, and underneath it there's this arc, which basically, if you check the astrological sign of Libra, you're gonna see that it's this arc with a little dash on top, or dash at the bottom, excuse me, whichever how you see it. But it is kind of the sign of Libra is embedded here. It's embedded in the card, because the High Priestess is, for those of you who are Libras, this is your card, the High Priestess. So it's the element of air, and we have wisdom, flexibility, feminine energy, the representation of the ultimate feminine divine. Another thing, we have this High Priestess that's sitting, not only she's sitting on books, but she's holding a book. And what is this book? This book represents the knowledge of the divine feminine, and this knowledge is within the spiritual realm. So this is a little bit kind of complex, but it's the knowledge of the divine feminine in the spirit realm. It's what's in the book that she's holding. And there's a veil that she's wearing around her as well. And you can see this veil in other tarot decks as well. Rider-Waite has it, Tarot de Marseille has it. She's wearing a veil, and that veil is also a representation of her hiding the divine feminine knowledge. Some people call it divine light. Some people call it just that divinity that comes from the spirit realm. She's hiding it in that book. In the Tarot de Marseille, which is one of the first tarots ever becoming public in the world before even Rider-Waite, if you see the High Priestess in the Tarot of Marseille, you're gonna see that she's reading a book. There's a book there, but it's a book made out of skin. It's like the color of her skin. It means that you don't need to go read other books. You have to read your inner book. It's the book that's within you. It's the representation of the spirit within, the spirit that we need to embody in this physical reality. That's what the book represents. It doesn't mean that you need to go read books. It means that you have to read the book inside that's within you. And that's where the wisdom of this priestess lies. It lies in that inner divine feminine that she holds within her. So that's for the book. She's also holding here a lyre or a harp, because she's the representation of like an enchanting. She enchanted. She hunts by enchanting. I said she hunts because in this tarot deck, she's represented, in Hermetic tarot deck, she's represented as Artemis. Artemis, the goddess of hunting, the goddess of animals, and the goddess of the moon as well. So this lyre or this harp that she's using, she enchants people with this harp. She plays the music and she enchants them for hunting. That's how she hunts. She hypnotizes people, or she hypnotizes what she needs in order to hunt. So she's also a representation of Isis. So we have Isis, Artemis, all of these divine feminine archetypes that have existed before. These divine feminine that actually all, again, it comes all from the spirit realm, from the moon, from darkness. And here, what else do we have here? Here in the this is the card of the Thoth deck, as you can see here. The Thoth deck, which is by Aleister Crowley, has a lot of elements that come from the Hermetic Tarot deck, because the Aleister Crowley used to use this deck, the Hermetic deck, quite a lot. So he's heavily inspired by the Hermetic Tarot deck, because this tarot is alchemical, it's hermetic, it has all of the occult knowledge. So he's kind of basically having kind of the same elements that's in the Hermetic Tarot deck. You can see here the moon, the priestess, the harp that she's playing. And I'm gonna also move to the pillars. There's two pillars here. There's two pillars, one on the right, one on the left. In the Rider-Waite, these pillars are represented. One is black and one is white. And I'm gonna come to explain that shortly, but first let me explain what they mean in the Hermetic Tarot deck. These pillars, in the Kabbalah, they're basically the pillars that are mentioned in the Kabbalah. they represent the road that a camel, and that's why in the Crowley deck there's a little white camel here that you see. There's a camel, and you wonder, why is there a camel in the Priestess card? You know, some random animals, you know. It represents that the road or the path that the camel needs to do from Kether or Keter to Tiferet. Keter and Tiferet, they are Sephiroths or Spheroths, and the Spheroths are the elements that compose the tree of life in the Kabbalah. So now we go in the realm of the Kabbalah. And let me remind you that Hermeticism, the Hermetic Tarot deck, and all of these people who have made these decks, like Aleister Crowley, they were all, or Eliphas Levi, they were all into the Kabbalah. They were very interested in Kabbalah, and they kind of connected tarot, occult, Kabbalah, Hermeticism. They connected everything. So that's why you find elements of the Kabbalah in tarot, and that's why there's Hebrew letters on each major arcana. So there's a Hebrew letter here as well, as you can see at the corner. And you're gonna find that in the Hermetic Tarot deck for sure, and in the Crowley deck, in the Thoth deck, there's also Hebrew letters. Those are from the Kabbalah. Those are the 22 Hebrew letters that match the 22 major arcanas of tarot. And again, this correlation was done by Eliphas Levi, and I'm going to talk about this in other videos, but let's focus on the High Priestess. So Kether and Tiferet, they are Sephiroths or Spheroths, and these pillars, one is Kether, one is Tiferet, and here you see in the Thoth deck there's also two pillars, and the camel needs to do that road. Kether means crown, like the crown. It means the crown. It means basically what's at the top. So that's the meaning of Kether. Kether is the crown. Tiferet means beauty. It means balance. It means spirit. That's what it means. So basically, it's the path that the camel needs to travel from the crown to the beauty or to the spirit. How does that, why camel? Because camel is an animal that has patience. It's an enduring animal. It lives in the desert. It can stay for weeks and weeks without water. If humans had the patience and strength of the camel, we would accomplish a lot of things. So camel is an amazing animal, and that's why camel is used in this kind of path that needs to be done between these two elements in the tree of life. But again, this is the realm of Kabbalah. So if you're into Kabbalah, this is what it means. And I just wanted to put it out there for you. I hope you're not going to get confused, but just remember these elements. We have also another interpretation of these pillars in the Rider-Waite Tarot, as I mentioned earlier. And these pillars in the Rider-Waite Tarot, they're black and white. The black one is called Jachin or Jachin, and that's the white one, and the black one is called Boaz. So Jachin and Boaz, that's the name of the pillars. What are these pillars? What are they? These are the pillars of the Temple of Solomon. These pillars go back as far as the Temple of Solomon, when the Temple of Solomon was built, and there was these two huge pillars, these columns, these pillars. They were magnificent. They were at the entrance of the temple. They were made from brass, from pure brass, and the guy who Solomon gave the duty to build these pillars, his name is Hiram Abif. Hiram Abif is the guy who basically was a supervisor to building these pillars. Hiram Abif. And these pillars, it is said that they were gigantic. They stand like I don't remember how many feet tall, like 40 feet tall or something like that, like huge pillars, and they were made out of brass, and they're basically a representation of initiation, and I'm coming to that shortly as well. They represent initiation. So these pillars were one of the main elements of the Temple of Solomon. And you can find this symbology, of course, in the Rider-Waite Empress card. You can find it in the Freemasonry. The Freemasons use these pillars a lot, and you see this in movies. You see it in a lot of occult studies. You see these two pillars. They represent initiation. They also represent polarity, as I mentioned earlier. That's why in the Rider White, one is black, one is white. One is dark, one is light. As above, so below. You have always this polarity. And these pillars, just to give you a little story about them, it is said that they were inspired when the Temple of Solomon was built. They were inspired by even the ancient Egyptian and Atlantean way of building temples, because Plato, when he describes Atlantis, he says that Atlantis exists beyond the pillar of Hercules. We have here again pillars of Hercules, right? The pillars of Hercules, which is in North Africa. You have Gibraltar and northern Morocco. And I have another video about In the Search of Atlantis, where I go to that area and visit, and I share with you guys what I have discovered, because I'm fascinated by Atlantis. So again, this is another metaphor or representation for these two pillars, the pillars of Hercules, the pillars of the Temple of Solomon, Jachin and Boaz. And it means that the initiate, when he passes through these pillars, when he goes beyond, he is initiated into the realm of the divine. Because even for the pillar of Atlantis, it was said that beyond the pillars, there was nothing, or the physical reality didn't exist. So it's a metaphor that when you go through these pillars, you're initiated. You're initiated, and you know, you understand the spirit realm. So that's why the Rider White has these pillars. And when these pillars were built from brass, they were connected by a net. It's a sort of net. It's a sort of mesh or net. As you can see here, actually, I realized that it was included in the Thoth deck. There's this mesh. And on top of that, at the top of the pillars, they decorated the top of the pillars with pomegranates. So that's why in the Rider White card, you see these two pillars, and behind the Priestess, you see a lot of pomegranates everywhere. That's because in the Temple of Solomon, when the Temple of Solomon was completed, at the top of the two pillars, between them was like this roof or this mesh of pomegranates. Can you guys imagine the beauty of this temple, the beauty of these pillars? They were made out of brass, how they were like shining, shimmering, and then pomegranates so far away. And it was probably magnificent. It was mesmerizing to even look at, right? So that's why in the Rider White, there's these pomegranates. If you wonder, what are these pomegranates, you know? Because they were they were physical. That's what they were. They were there. Another thing about these pillars is that they're basically, again, to connect it to the Kabbalah, there's two pillars, and the High Priestess, which is the divine feminine, or balance, the person that balances between the masculine and the feminine, is the third pillar. It's the third pillar. So we have here one pillar that basically represents they're called in the Kabbalah the three pillars of creation. The three pillars of creation. So you have one on the right, one on the left, one in the middle. It's the High Priestess herself. And so one represents strength, one represents wisdom, and it is said that the middle one, the High Priestess, is harmony. So basically, if you have strength, if you have wisdom, then you will gain harmony. You will gain balance. And balance is what you need to live in the physical realm and in the spirit realm. So it is the three pillars of creation. And here again, we go back to number 3, the number of mastery, the number of creation. But this is again another element, another occult element that in the Kabbalah you can find in there as well. Again, it's another meaning for Jachin and Boaz. Jachin, the real meaning of Jachin, it is said that it means upright, stable, upright and stable. Boaz, basically the meaning, it means that it's strong, strength. So we have upright, stable, and we have strength. Like earlier, I said another interpretation earlier that I said it was wisdom and strength. So basically, the two pillars, if you combine them together in a phrase, they mean he is established in its strength. He's established, or she's established in its strength. So, meaning that if you gain wisdom and strength, when you have that stability, that strength, that wisdom, and you know who you are. That's what I mean all the time when I say you have to know who you are. You have to know who you are. Because when you know who you are, you become stable. You become stable. And then you become strong and you become wise. That's the two pillars. And then you become the third pillar, which is balance, harmony, initiation. And then you can go beyond the realm of the physical realm. You go beyond. You go to the realm of the unknown. You're initiated. Now you can navigate the spirit, and you know what spirit is. And this is what the High Priestess here represents. It's so deep. One card, just one major arcana, and it has so much depth into it. And actually every major arcana is like this. Every major arcana has so much depth to it. That's why Eliphas Levi, he wrote a huge book just about the 22 major arcanas. This reminds me also of Ina Witch's Tarot Grimoire. It is the same. It talks about the 22 major arcanas in so much detail and beauty, and she connects them with many sides of the occult, with gypsy magic, with rituals, and it's fascinating. Every time I go back to the major arcanas, they fascinate me, they blow my mind. So much wisdom held within just one card. So remember, when you have strength, when you have wisdom, when you have stability with who you are, when you know who you are, you become the third pillar of creation, you become the initiate, you go beyond, you pass through the pillars, now you're initiated, and you can basically gain the secrets of creation, the secrets of the spirit realm, which is basically what this High Priestess represents in her book, the inner wisdom that she represents. And it's interesting that it's the feminine energy. We don't see masculine energy here, it's feminine. It's the High Priestess, it's the feminine divine that holds the wisdom. Do you see what I'm trying to say here? You connect the dots. And one last thing which is very interesting. It is said that also this priestess that's sitting in the middle, it is the Pope Joanne herself. Pope Joanne. It is believed, many people believed in the 13th century, in the Middle Ages, many people believed that she was a real pope who lived around the 9th century and in France. And she was a woman who pretended to be a man, and she became a pope. She went to pope ranking, as a man, but she was a woman, and that's fascinating. Again, it represents here that divinity, that feminine divinity, holds within it the masculine divine as well. So that they can be separated there, right there. And again, every time you see these two pillars, when you see them here, remember that it's all about that balance that you need to have between the polarities that exist in existence. These polarities will exist everywhere you go. Even if you go to the spirit realm, they're gonna be there. So you just, the master, the initiates, the third pillar of creation is the one who can balance them. And that's why you become harmonious. You become the divine feminine. You become the High Priestess. I think that's what it means. I hope this was helpful. And again, there's so much more, guys. There's so much more info, but in order for me to make basically a video that describes everything, I need I need at least a couple of weeks of preparing and editing the video. But I prefer to share with you this as it is, raw, non-edited, and that way if the information is fresher and you can benefit from it right away, instead of you guys waiting a couple weeks before I produce and edit, and so there's so much more work involved in this. But there's much more to this card, but I told you the main elements. I hope this helps. Let me know in the comment section, what does this card mean for you? Is it your card? When it comes when it comes for you, what does it mean? Oh yes, by the way, when it comes, if you have it in a reading, it means wisdom, as I mentioned. It means the balance, the harmony, the strength, the stability, knowing who you are, the divine feminine, and all of these elements that I mentioned, and holding the knowledge of the spirit realm. And if it's reversed, it's basically the opposite. It means lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, lack of wisdom, lack of stability, not knowing who you are, being lost all the time, being kind of confused. That's the not embracing your divine feminine. That's basically the meaning. So yeah, I hope this helps. Thanks again for watching. Link in the description below. Go to selfalchemist.com. I have there my book, readings that I offer, sigils, and much more. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video.